Hi, I'm Neil.
Hi, I'm Jeanette.
Welcome
aboard Echo Echo.
Taking photos as well. It's our second day since leaving the Galapagos now, and we're in the trade winds. We think they're quite far north this year. Some squalls around, but nothing too serious. Rolling along, doing great speed, anything from high sixes to low sevens. At the moment that swell's still from the south, so cracking sailing, but Jeanette's not liking it. Let's see if we can find out what she has to say about it. So Jeanette, what do you reckon? You having fun yet?
No.
Tell me about it.
I feel sick. I've got a headache. I have hardly any sleep because we've been heeled over and we're going so fucking fast. I'm really not impressed.
Isn't fast good? We'll get there sooner.
No, I'd rather go there later but do it comfortably and relax instead of being in a fucking race.
Oh, there you heard it, folks. She ain't happy.
We're in the doldrums. We're 4 degrees south and we're coming up to our first squall, it looks. We've reefed our main well in and we've got our staysail up, but we have no idea what to expect. It's been a rough day all day and we're not sure what's going to happen now. We're just waiting. Hopefully it won't be anything too big.
We've just come through our first squall outside of after leaving the Galapagos. Turned out to be much ado about nothing. Maximum wind gust was about 20 knots. But now we've got the rain with it, and the big decision is at what point do we start picking up speed again, because there's this cloud all around us. Is there more wind behind one of these clouds or not? But at the moment we're just wallowing here at about 3 knots, and it's actually, so this big squall turned out to be so little that Jeanette is actually smiling again.
Go away, Neil. I told you not to film me.
So clearly the way when Jeanette's feeling miserable and seasick to get her to smile is to tell her we've got a big horrendous squall coming along. And obviously Don, who has water in his veins, didn't even beat it.
I wish I could get out of the deck and take a shower.
Yeah, well, it's
Too rough for that.
If it was a bit warmer, I might do that. Anyway, it is the weather around us.
Neil usually goes and gets out and collects the water, even when we've had 40 knot squall. He's collected water.
Here we are, day 12. We're finally well into the trade wind belt now. It seems to have taken forever to get here. We had a whole bunch of unsettled weather over the last few days. That now seems to be to our north. We were fortunate that we were able to take a route to the south of the Galapagos, whereas a number of our boats left at the same time as us had to go to the north because they weren't able to point quite as high as us to get south of the Galapagos. As it was, we couldn't go totally south. We actually had to cut through the middle of it, and so we got a bit of a look at the Galapagos, and that was some of the most sublime sailing I've ever experienced. There was one day there where I was asleep in my bunk and the patterns of the sunlight down below just weren't moving at all, which is really weird on a boat. There's absolutely no sensation of movement, but we were still sailing along at about 5 or 6 knots. It was so flat and the weather was fine. Then we turned the corner out of the Galapagos and we got met with 3-metre swells and back into the head seas, but we've overcome that now. Everything's good, although Jeanette is still looking a little worse from wear. Still suffering the effects of seasickness, which is a bit of a concern after 14 days. So here we are. I'll give you a bit of a look around. At the moment we've got about 3 or 4 turns around the headsail and probably the equivalent of about 1.5, maybe 2 reefs in the main, so fairly short sail. The wind strength's probably about 15 knots and we're rocking along at 7 knots. This is what it looks like in the tropics, in the trade winds, in the middle of the Pacific. How cool is that? Well, they say cruising is about fixing boats in exotic destinations. By my reckoning now we're about halfway time-wise of the distance from Panama through to the Marquesas in French Polynesia. So we've been at sea 14 days now. I suspect it'll take us 29 maybe days. So I thought we'd just show you what's broken so far. Some of it inconsequential, other stuff perhaps not. I'll start with one I'm not going to go and show you, which is the main toilet that we use, the aft one on the port side. It was the one that got clogged up when we crossed the Panama Canal by one of the line handlers using half a roll of bog wrap just to do what he needed to do. One of the seals in that seems to have given up the ghost, so now when we empty the toilet, most of the contents fortunately goes overboard. Some of it, however, remains inside the boat. That's a bit yucky, but we're coping with that. That's probably the least pleasant of them. Another one we've got here is a little cup holder in the cockpit, which I'll show you. This here, the base of it got snapped off the other day when we were having dinner, but that's not too major. Oh, let's go and have a look on deck. I'll see if I can find some stuff out there. Stumble, stumble. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is the first bit. The ends come off our main sheet traveller. It's just a plastic cap that sits on there. There's no visible means of it being connected other than by perhaps a couple of dollops of silicon or something like that. That's disintegrated, come off. The problem with that is when easing the main or working on the main and the main sheet's flopping around, it'll often get caught under this little hook here, and then at night when we're trying to sheet it in and don't notice it is getting caught, the lay of the line comes off at an angle, and that's what's happened to that block. We've cracked the plastic on it by sheeting it in when the line's been sitting under there. That's a bit of a shame, but wait, there's more. Let's move forward. Just re-click myself. This morning's rather a big nasty, and it is a big nasty. We'd finally got ourselves with the wind free enough to be able to set the Whisker pole and pole out the Genoa, and that up there is what remains of the mast end of the Whisker pole. The pole itself is down on the deck. It's something I'm really upset about. Basically the pole was secured to the mast end with 4 stainless steel screws, which I'll go and show you now. There's 4 stainless steel screws here. There's 2 more on the other side. They've all sheared off, and the extrusion inside the pole to allow the pole to be extended and unextended has absolutely mangled itself, and has probably a 20-degree bend in it there. That's going to take a little bit of surgery when we get somewhere where I can do some work on it. I'm really disappointed in that. It's just not up to the job. And I have only 4 little screws holding that together, and the forces under it are absolutely tremendous. Fixing that might not be that big of an issue, but what is perhaps a bigger issue is that when it came spearing off the mast, it went into the deck. We've lost the deck tread gel coat there. It bounced against the hatch. This hatch has been twisted there now. I suspect that'll leak like a sieve when we get a bit of water over the deck for whatever reason. And it's also taken a whole bunch of bark out of the fiberglass near the tow rail. So apart from that, we're having a great time. The weather's just fantastic. We're moving along. We're doing about 150 miles a day, which is an average of about 6.5 knots. Our crew member keeps trying to encourage us to sail faster, and Jeanette keeps trying to encourage us to sail slower because she's still suffering from seasickness. And I've got to try and find some sort of happy medium, which is rather difficult. I wouldn't mind going a bit quicker, but on the other hand, this is really quite relaxing. So here we are, yeah, my estimation, another 14-15 days to go. I'm sure by the end of this we will all be thoroughly sick of it, but time will tell. That's all for now. We're on to day 17, I think it is now. We've come a long way, well over halfway in terms of time anyway. Probably around about that in distance. And you start celebrating really silly things. I'm going to show you something on our chart plotter here. Hopefully you can see it. Distance to go to Nukuhiva, 1961 miles. That was the year Jeanette and I were born. So that's worth celebrating, I think, isn't it? Yeehaw! And I'll show you a better picture of what's going on here. So this shows the track from Panama. All of these little red bits are signify where we were at noon on each of those days. So we went down to the Galapagos, through the Galapagos, and now we're on our way across the Pacific, heading to that place there, which is the Marquesas. So you can see relative to South America over there that it's a hell of a long way, So it's nice to be more than halfway there. We're already starting to chomp at the bit and talk about, well, what is it we're going to look forward to when we get there, and all this kind of stuff, and trying to convince Jeanette to get a tattoo. I suspect she won't get a tattoo, but I might. Don't know what of yet, but we'll see. It's got to be worthy of celebrating somehow, because it's taken me many years, numerous decades to get to this point. We've had a fairly boisterous 24 hours. The seas were probably up just around about 4 meters, I guess. But oddly enough, the boat seems to sail better, smoother, flatter, calmer in those kind of conditions than it does when there's 15 or 20 knot quartering wind waves. So all is good on board. More later.
What are you sitting on the floor, Neil? Or why are you sitting on the floor?
Sitting on the floor to eat my breakfast because it's not as far to fall. And we're bouncing around so much at the moment that anywhere else that I put my food is likely to end up on the floor anyway. So this is just cutting out the middleman, really. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why safest place to be, less motion. Cheers.
The day that I die, this will be the day that I die.
Caught Jeanette in a candid moment. She's singing. She's oblivious to me being here. Probably not a good thing for film, but anyway. Hello.
Pretty rocky, pretty rolly.
Doesn't look like it. The stoves aren't hardly moving at all.
Yeah, at the moment it's not too bad. It's pretty good. But I thought if I dance along I won't notice the rock and it's actually helping me not feel so bad.
Yes, I said to Don this morning he would... Oh, yeah, there you go. Don would fail a sobriety test, the way he was staggering around. We've just been sitting here right on sunset having a bit of a chat and found something rather interesting that happened. Last night about 4 o'clock in the morning when it was my watch, Jeanette sticks her head out of the companionway and asks me to slow the boat down. I think the comment was something along the lines of, "Come on, Neil, slow the boat down. It's getting too the motion down here is awful. It's making me feel sick," or something like that. Can you remember that event, Jeanette?
No, I can't remember that. Neil said I did it, but I can't remember it. So I'm not sure whether there's a few odd things happening, and I'm not sure if the seasick medication is starting to get to me, but because I thought I saw him walk past my bunk and I was looking for something that I hadn't lost and looking under things, so there's a few odd things that's happening, and I'm not sure if I was sleepwalking last night because I'd had to say that a few nights in a row.
So this slowing the boat down one I found a little bit annoying because at the time I was barely doing 5 knots. I was doing everything I possibly could to keep the boat moving along. And I was being frustrated for a series of events, and I was getting a little bit annoyed about how slow it was going, and then I get out, and now I find out that she wasn't even aware it was happening. So there you go, incontrovertial proof. My wife is going nuts, and we've still got a couple of weeks to go. My God, heaven help us.